about anything. Then I got married to one of them, and then I had to start worrying. All right, fearless leader here. This is the lady who set all this up. She's an author. She's a friend of mine. She's extremely talented. Yeah, you are. You want a tip and everything. I want a tip and everything. And Kathleen Cosgrove's going to talk about 5th grade Commie Hunter, but if anyone here has dating stories or advice, I'm guessing it's Kathleen. You have something for us?
Yes, don't ever go anywhere with my friend Jan. She's a horrible influence, has been since I was 15. Talked me into one of those dates when I was visiting with her in Albuquerque. And so I went on one. And the guy, we're having lunch, and we go to leave, and the manager chased us out to the parking lot because he stiffed the waiter. So that wasn't a good date. Anyway, this is my story, the 5th grade Commie Hunter, and I looked like I was going to be a sweet, innocent child when I was in the 5th grade, but I was really just a big hot mess. Here. I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, baby!
I'm going to leave that right there. Okay. The year was The year was 1958. I was in 1st grade when the school nurse gave everyone hearing tests. I was sure that since I was the only one bringing a letter home to their parents, it must have been because I scored better than the entire class. I won! The hearing specialist my mother took me to told her I needed to begin lip reading classes. He was sure I would eventually become profoundly deaf, and sign language was frowned upon in the 50s. The rationale there being it would make me look stupid, as opposed to, I guess, not understanding the teacher or anyone else and actually becoming stupid. Anyway, I thought lip reading classes sounded like the best thing that could happen to me. I'd know something no one else would know. I'd be recruited by the government to eavesdrop on communists. I'd know what the teachers said to each other in the lunchroom. I was going to be magical. I'm not sure what my mother said to that particular doctor, but she didn't seem to be as excited about the plan as I. We left there, and the next doctor said I probably wasn't going to get any worse, and just to have me sit in the front row in class. My career in the CIA shot down before I'd even found out what exactly a communist was. Then I remembered hearing that they were red, and thought that alone should make them easy to spot. Maybe all was not lost. But before I could spend too much time anticipating my career in commie identification, the school nurse had another test for us. This time, it was the eye chart. And guess what? I won that too. My prize package included a pair of, as you can see, blue plastic glasses with wings at the brow and an eye patch. Keep in mind, this was the 50s. Errol Flynn was behind me, and Johnny Depp was only a gleam in Walt Disney's eye. In fact, this was the decade where the only people wearing eye patches were the cooks in TV westerns. They were not cool at all. They were cantankerous and cooked beans and even did that badly. I was going to be the Gabby Hayes of my block. But I began hard-working a plan to use all that to my advantage. These were exciting times for a wannabe CIA operative. I lived in Miami during the time the Cubans became BFFs with Russia. The commies were practically within swimming distance from my house. We had duck and cover drills so often during the Cuban Missile Crisis that I started keeping snacks under my desk. I found enough loose pennies on the floor to buy an anti-Khrushchev propaganda comic from the school store. I rode my bike to the local theater to see Sean Connery as Agent 007 in Dr. No so many times I could have recited the dialogue. I was primed and ready. The seeds of espionage had been sown. The ideas were growing in my scheming little brain faster than an out-of-control Aston Martin in the Swiss Alps. Cue in James Bond music. Let's see, I wondered. Who should I be ready to turn over to the feds? Our backdoor neighbors, the DeVitos, were Italian. My brother and I were friends with their kids, Georgie and Louise, who seemed fairly normal, but their parents were suspect. They had accents and everything. If their dad left the window cracked, I could hear him singing opera in the shower, and no real American would do that. They may not have been Russian, but still, they were foreign. They were on my list. Then my big break came. It was early 1963, and I was in the 5th grade when a real, honest-to-God Cuban boy by the name of Oscar Diaz enrolled in my school. My first close-up look at the enemy. I kept a notebook devoted exclusively to him, what he ate, who he talked to, what he wore. If he appeared to be using any of those X-ray glasses I saw being sold in the back of comic books. If he was there to spy on America, then by God, America was going to keep spying right back on him. And then inevitably, or ironically, I'm still not sure to this day if my teacher suspected my obsession, she paired me with Oscar to help him with his reading. He was still struggling with English, and I, planning on my career as a secret agent, had paid particularly close attention during Spanish language classes. Those first days were awkward. He didn't seem to want to work with me, and after a week asked the teacher if he could have another partner. My first thought was that he was, of course, aware that I was onto him. He knew I would blow his covert elementary school spy operation, and he'd be sent packing back to Havana with nothing to show for his time here, other than a scar from a smallpox vaccine and some No. 2 pencils. It turns out, I learned later from a friend, that he just thought I was weird, and he worried I might have had a crush on him since I spent so much time watching him. And of course I really was weird, and I really did have a crush on him. I mean, he was different, he had an accent and everything. I was a child, albeit a weird one, but still, I can forgive myself for falling prey to all the propaganda we were fed back then. I can see it now for what it was, fear for fear's sake. Many decades later, my hearing may not have improved. In fact, it's gotten worse. But my understanding of our planet's shared humanity has certainly grown. I no longer fear people who don't look or speak like me. I even learned to accept people who sing opera in the shower. What I do fear now is that my country is still covering under its collective desk, reading propaganda comic books and suspecting the kid with the odd-sounding name. Maybe if we all crawled out of our hiding places and really got to know people on a more personal level, we'd find out that they're just like us, wanting to fit in, to be liked, to be happy, and trying desperately to avoid having to sit next to the weird girl with the blue plastic glasses.
If you watch The Americans, you'll see her name in the credits at the end. It's a consulting producer or something like that. Let's have a nice round of applause for all of our storytellers tonight. Thank all of you for coming out. Thank those of you who participated. Anything else you want to talk about while we're doing?
Just keep an eye on Facebook and whatever for the next show. It'll probably be in the next couple of months.
And have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
So good, you guys. Hey, I didn't pay my admission.
So much.
I need to pay you my admission.
Oh, you're very welcome. I was okay for
Great job. You did wonderful. Thank you. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's drizzling still.
Lily's like to get something nice. I might have only known that when I was in high school. Just having tried to do it for the voice.
I like
My
this.
son Charlie said,
I like this subliminal message.
Good job, Lily.
Toward the end there.
Feel good? Good job.
love your story. It's so good. But it was a great story.
Honey, this is my friend Ed, and this is my oldest son.
Ed, good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
So you're Tony?
Yeah, that's Tony.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Left wing.
Yeah. That's my side.
Oh, my phone. Oh, shoot.
Sorry?
I forgot my phone.
It's actually run. It started out there with half a dozen of us. It's just